to Scoundrels Inc., another Star Wars podcast. I am Frank Jansch alongside Brandon Hanna and Sean Sullivan. We're here to talk about Ahsoka Part 7, Dreams and Madness. We're talking about Thrawn and all his strategery. Ahsoka finally gets to Peridea, however you want to call it. You are either right or wrong. And then Baylan Shin. What the hell is going on with these two? Baylan is mysterious as ever. He reminds me of the slop they would serve in my fourth period lunch in high school. I have no idea what this guy is about, but we're going to talk about it all. And right now, I want to get some overall thoughts from the one Sean Sullivan. Actually, I'd like just series thoughts right now because episodes 1 through 7. What do you think? And in this episode, obviously.
Yeah, I think I've been pretty clear this whole time. I love this show. You know, it's I think that it's a great ode to Star Wars Rebels. Do I think it's maybe a little bit too much Star Wars Rebels? Am I a little bit worried that it's a little... It being called Ahsoka might not be the right name for the series, right? It should just be called Rebels. But yeah, I think overall it's been honestly one of my favorite Star Wars series so far. It's beating out Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Andor for me right now. But that might just be nostalgia, and I might rewatch Andor and go, no, what the fuck was I thinking, right?
What do you think about this episode specifically then, overall?
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It's a great, as a friend of the show, Mark Ellis would say, penultimate episode. Yes. I think it really reinforces everything we've been seeing. It's the reuniting of our characters. I think Huyang said it best. They're finally reunited. I just hope I survive to see it.
Yeah, it was a great line. Brandon.
Yes.
This episode, I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts. You want to say a lot this episode, and you were chatting it up in the pre-show about how much you got a lot to get off your chest. What do you got for us?
I really liked the episode. I also really enjoyed last week's episode. I know I wasn't here to speak on it. I was trapped on Peridea. Thankfully, Sean came and found me. It took him long enough, though. But, it's fine.
Took him long enough. That's what he got there.
But the Force is my ally.
You don't have to give us all the details. You don't have to give us all the details. It's okay. You can wait a couple episodes more to give us all the details.
But no, I'm really invested in this story. I love Thrawn. I want him to be on screen a lot more, and it's really making me sad that I don't know how long we're gonna have to wait after next week until we see him again.
Yeah.
Probably longer than we want, right?
But no, it's just really cool stuff. Like seeing, I think Ezra in live action's playing super well. Seeing the reunion with Ahsoka finally making it there, and all the action and more lightsaber fights. And I love those little turtle people, slug thingies. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah, lots of good stuff to get into in this episode. I think it is my favorite of the series so far. I know I say that every week, Mike Kalinowski. Apparently I say that every week. You got in my replies on that one, and then it made me question, do I say that every week about every episode? So I literally had to go back and did I say that every episode?
I'm typically pretty positive on these, which isn't a bad thing.
No. I fully admitted to that. I like a lot of these episodes to varying degrees. I'm almost quoting my tweet right now in my reply. Mm-hmm. But to be fair, I have not said every episode is my favorite. The first couple episodes, I liked them a lot. I did not call them my favorite, which would have been kind of weird because it's like the first episode, but so it's kind of by default, I guess. Okay, whatever. Anyways.
Listen, it makes sense. It makes sense, Frank, that every episode is your favorite because every episode is better than the next or the last.
All fresh and it's all new.
That's not my fault that they keep...
This is what I every day I leave for work. I tell my cat to have the best day ever. Okay, because every day of his life is the best day of his life. They just keep getting better and better every single day. So that's be
right,
true.
Brandon. Thank you.
Brandon, just like Ahsoka episodes.
Absolutely, it's the same thing. But this whole episode, it really, truly, that it's had so much going on and a culmination of a lot of things that we've been building up with. Are we getting, when we see Thrawn, we see Baylan and Shin and Ahsoka and Ezra and Sabine, and all this is they're all finally on the same planet. And yeah, it's a penultimate episode. It's putting the pieces on the board where they need to be for the finale. We'll talk about, maybe what we think is going to happen in the finale later on. But overall, again, I do think this is my favorite episode because what you talked about, Brandon, a lot of action, a lot of lightsaber, a lot of Thrawn. It just had a lot of good stuff working for me. Crazy little alien creatures. Loved it all. But before we really dive into everything, I want to ask everyone to subscribe to the channel. Would really help us out. We're almost at 500 subscribers. We're at 474, I think, at this point. So we're creeping up. We're the little engine that could. We're gonna get there one day. And then if you hit like on the video and leave a comment what you thought about this episode of Ahsoka. Love to know your thoughts and your theories going forward. What do you think is gonna happen in the finale? Is everyone gonna get off this planet or not? And we'll also talk about that as well. And then follow us on our socials. They have formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Brandon's favorite
Threads. Read about
there it is.
The Threads, they're indecisive. They're unclear. Whatever.
Actively using Threads now.
If it's good enough for the Ninth Sisters of the Dathomiri, it's good enough for me. Okay.
Wow. Okay. There you have it. There you have it.
Well,
Sean.
these aren't Dathomiri, right? These are Peridean Night Sisters.
But they are the Dathomiri. Isn't it like they're the Dathomiri people, and then they immigrated to the known galaxy, and then they named that planet Dathomir? I think that's how that.
So
works.
Is there another planet called Dathomiri?
No, I think that's just the name of the people.
Well, sure.
Oh, see, I got the vibe that they're from Peridea, and then they
just gave themselves the name the Dathomiri.
I think that's their name. You could have a name that's different from the planet you live on.
Well, I'm an Earthling, and I'm from
we're
planet
humans.
Earth. Yeah.
Oh, damn.
You could say that you're an American or a Chicagoan, but you're from the planet Earth. You could be a Dathomiri from the planet Peridea.
I've never met a Chicagoan I liked.
So you also have a podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you're inclined to the audio version of our show, thank you, and subscribe to our podcast feed would also help us out a lot. And hey, as always, we talked about the SAG and WGA strike, and good news, it's over for the WGA. They got a deal, and it looks like a really great one. Sean, did you want to say something? You raised your hand there.
No, I was saying only one of them.
Yeah, only one. So we're waiting on SAG now, and hopefully that's coming soon. I understand they have a meeting this coming Monday with the AMPTP, so hopefully it goes well, like it did for the WGA. Awesome. So now let's get on to Dreams and Madness. We all start on Coruscant, this huge court council type of thing. This scene was wild because people were just chiming in left and right, Sean. Or Brandon?
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interject, but what is the old Republic and the Empire had this grand Senate chamber. It was magnificent. They had floating platforms that you could throw at little green men and things like that. And this one, they're just like in like a small town's like tiny courthouse. Well,
I don't think so. I don't think this is the Senate. I think this is a portion of the Security Council.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At least that was my initial thought until
this was the court. They call it a court, so I don't know.
Did they? Okay, so because I wasn't sure. My initial thought was it was the Security Council, and that's why we saw those same senators assembled that were in the third episode. Was second or third episode?
Third. Yeah.
Because that would be the New Republic Security Council. That's why they're making military decisions. But then we find out Leia's the head of the Security Council, not to jump too far ahead.
Sure.
But we find out Leia's the head of the Security Council, and she's not there. So is Mon Mothma sitting in her place because Leia is busy or pregnant or...
Yeah, so it is interesting because I think Mon Mothma, as Madam Chancellor, would sit at the head of the table, and then ideally you would have Leia somewhere there also as she chairs the committee, kind of like like our government in a sense.
Well, even hypothetically, Mon wouldn't be there, right?
I mean, that's true
security.
Too.
Yeah,
that's true too. But
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what this governing body is. But I don't think
they called it Defense Council. Is what
did they?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they said that Leia was the head of.
Right, and so that was the meeting that Hera was initially having on Home 1, with the Defense Council, but Leia wasn't there for that.
And she's not there for this one either.
And this is a court.
But it's the same senators.
Yeah, so
that's because that's what it felt like to me, was like a council chamber and not the full Senate chamber.
I was a little confused about that as well. I was like, what are the different... You're talking about the Senate committee, now you have the Defense Council, but then this is a court. So the Republicans in shambles, that's all I know.
Also,
Terrible.
Arguably, I don't think Coruscant is the capital of the New Republic.
Not at this point, it wouldn't be. We got Chandrilla, yeah.
Probably it rotates. The way the New Republic does it, it rotates. But every
this
7
early
years.
on, wasn't it like Chandrilla, I think?
It should be, yeah. It should be.
They're like, yeah, maybe if we rotate, nobody will blow it up.
That was kind of the plan. So the whole idea was that it also doesn't make any one planet feel more special than the others. Right. Because Coruscant very much thrived being the capital of the the Republic, and basically it thrived off the work of every other planet because it's the capital. Right. Became the center of the universe, even though it wasn't.
Right. Yeah. But Sean, Xiono and Hera. This dynamic duo. This fart box. Talk to me about this. Like, do you like their back and forth? Do you think it's? I mean, first of all, the actress playing Xiono is doing an A+
stellar,
job.
stellar, and he really does remind me of I could see where Kaz gets his rebellious streak, right? Like his dad is the this uptight senator, very much. What do they call? Have you read Bloodlines, Frank?
A little bit. I never finished it, but I did read.
I don't remember what the two factions are for Bloodlines.
Yeah,
right. There's the centrists and the populists. I think maybe.
I think that sounds correct to me.
But he very much reminds me of the First Order aligned
party.
Yeah. And we know that he wasn't on Hosnian Prime when it blew up. So maybe, I don't know. I love him. I love him. I like that they're using an established character that we don't know a whole lot about. They're drawing those connections. It doesn't, to me, make... One thing I was worried about was that it would make the galaxy feel smaller. It doesn't, right? It feels like it's building out that connective tissue. It's something that we've always, as Star Wars fans, wanted, where we want to see this connective tissue between the cartoons and the live action and the books and the this and that and the other thing. Granted, they're both Filoni-led projects, so it makes sense that he's drawing that connective tissue. We know Filoni loves to see Filoni in Star Wars. So, whatever you think of Filoni, I say every week my opinion on it, so I'm sure everyone's tired of hearing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But also in this meeting, as Xiono was going after Hera to have her court-martialed, we get Carson Teva. He speaks up and he's like, "Well, what about Mandalore? What about?" And then Xiono's like, "Exactly my point." And I was like, "Oh,
yeah." Remember Mandalore when you wouldn't send the New Republic fleet, so the Mandalorians had to do it themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, dude.
Remember that time when we didn't help them out? Look what happened over there.
Well, again, that kind of goes to what we see in later on in the New Republic with Bloodlines and the stuff leading up to The Force Awakens the stuff leading, I think it was the stuff leading up to Last Jedi, was this whole idea that the New Republic wants the planetary defense forces and the individual governments to be able to deal with their own problems, so we don't lead to something like what we had in with the Rise of the Empire, right? All these planets are defenseless. They don't have PDFs anymore. They don't have any armies or starships or whatever. And, the New Republic by that time is only maintaining 7 starships, right? They're maintaining 7 capital ships and a small fleet of X-Wings. So it's, this is kind of a great prelude to what we're getting that leads to the rise of the First Order, this whole hubris of, oh, we're safe, it's not going to happen again. And it makes me wonder when we get to this Thrawn movie or this Heir to the Empire movie, this Mandoverse movie, whatever we want to call it, are we going to see a isolated conflict and something that isn't brought to the eyes of the New Republic as a whole? Or does their victory in that conflict reassure them that, hey, we're safe, we don't have to worry about it?
I think it might be the latter. I think that would make most
I hope
sense
so,
to me. So, but yeah,
I hope so too.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see like another like smaller war compared to like the Galactic Civil War, right? Like the return of Thrawn. I think he's gonna team up with the Shadow Council. There's gonna be this big Imperial army. They're gonna get defeated because the New Republic's gonna team up with the Mandalorians, and all these other people are gonna do their thing. They're gonna kill Thrawn, defeat what they think is left of the Imperial remnant, and meanwhile, like Hux and a few other people are going to go off to Exegol, and then they're going to be like, "Hey, Palpatine, you can work this guy Snoke like a meat puppet, right? Cool, he's in charge. All right, First Order time." Right. Something like that.
Hopefully, we get Ray Sloan in that.
I mean, maybe I hope maybe in the movie, because I don't think there's spot in. I mean, I'm assuming
that's what I mean in the movie. I hope. In fact, I hope Ray Sloan is the one to kill Thrawn.
That would be interesting. Yeah, because I think it does need to be an inside job. I think it needs to be an inside job.
Well, I mean, that's
if they're
what
going to follow the tropes of Heir of the Empire and all that stuff. So I think,
because we don't have Rook anymore, so we may as well.
I mean, you kind of have Enoch now, which could maybe
fills a similar role. Yeah. No, not Bodhi Rook. Different Rook.
But also in this court martial, if you will, for Hera, C-3PO shows up in Leia Organa's stead, and obviously, Carrie Fisher's no longer with us, and I think if they could have Carrie Fisher walk through that door, they absolutely would. But I think in order to be
gentle,
classy, and respectful of and honor her. We're going to bring in C-3PO, who is also just is an important member to Leia to begin with. So I think it was a beautiful touch to use C-3PO in this manner to involve Leia in these events, because she is a major player in at this point in the galaxy still, and I like how they use 3PO and how it kind of let Hera off the hook in a sense. And I thought it was a great way to shut up Xiono, because you love to see a guy like him get his comeuppance.
Well, and I think using 3PO is just as effective as using actual Leia, right? Like for me at least, right? It gave me that emotional punch that I was like, oh, I didn't even think that we'd see, C-3PO, which is funny because that's the night of that same night I had just been Jill and I had been talking about how we would love to see them just recast the, three heroes, or not recast, not even recast, right? Use Billy and use Billy and Alden and Sebastian and make it happen, right? Put them in the Heir to the Empire movie.
I think they're having serious talks on how to do
I hope so.
I think they're trying to figure out the best way to do that, and there's not an easy decision. That's not an easy decision to make. So
no, but it would feel strange for them not to be there, right?
100%. You're 100% correct. So I think that's why they have to have those discussions to try and figure out how to best do that. Because are we going to go full de-aging on someone? Are we going to recast? It's a very sensitive topic, especially with Carrie no longer being around. So Brandon,
right?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say the exact same thing that Sean said. It was like C-3PO was a great way to make us feel Leia's presence without her actually being there. But I don't know how much I could buy into the fact that we're dealing with all these conflicts with the Imperial Remnant and Thrawn's return, and Han, Luke, and Leia, the three people who saved the galaxy, are just kicking back in retirement. I don't it's just
not our problem anymore.
Yeah. Luke's I'm having robots build huts for me, and Leia's and Han are having a kid, and we're just kind of settling down.
As soon as there's conflict, Han Solo is gonna Han Solo in his late 30s. You're telling me he's not gonna go, well, Chewie, time to get some action in.
Yeah, let's go to Peridea, Chewie. Come on.
Maybe that's me equating too much Indy out of Han, but Indiana Jones doesn't sit on his ass. As soon as there's his venture, he acts like he doesn't want to do it and goes on the adventure, right?
Yeah.
I feel like if Han Solo heard that Moff Gideon has an army on Mandalore, he'd be like, well, I gotta go take care of that, because what the hell?
Yeah, I feel like we could do a whole nother episode on this type of topic.
So I'm in favor.
I don't want to.
Sure.
I'm in favor. Like,
I mean,
if Genevieve O'Reilly could play Mon Mothma post Return of the Jedi, we can have Alden Ehrenreich and all these other people like coming in. Like, figure it out. I don't care anymore. I just want the characters.
Yeah, they got.
I mean, I feel like everyone's accepted Donald Glover.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Why can't we accept the rest of them? Right.
Just like put some makeup on him, age him up a little bit, like make it like I don't know,
Right.
like remember when they made Joseph Gordon-Levitt look like Bruce Willis that one time?
Oh yeah. First of all, this movie didn't come out for like another 6 years, anyways, with the strikes pushing everything back. So they got time to get the technology in order, or to get it, better.
You might not even need to. They'll look aged up enough to.
Right.
Yeah, maybe not aged up, but like make them look more like Billy D. Williams and Harrison Ford, and like whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and move on to our way to Peridea. We're in the mouth of a Purgle with Huyang and Ahsoka. And Ahsoka is using those training videos from Anakin, at least 20. And she's using the last one. And I love this. Like, if you're going to bring Hayden Christensen back for a whole episode and change, you should use it. It makes perfect sense to use him in this kind of capacity. And it's it's just great to see him in that Clone War armor in live action and communicating to Ahsoka from the past, but still relevant to her present. I thought it was a really effective scene for Ahsoka. Sean, what did you think of seeing Hayden as Anakin and Ahsoka in this setting, interacting with that hologram?
I know I said this after episode 5, but I love how much Hayden invokes Matt Lanter. I love how reminiscent this was of what we had gotten in Tales from the Jedi and what we had gotten in that one shot from Rebels where she's also watching other training tapes off the holocron. I like that through line. I like that they've kept that consistent. Again, it's Filoni, calling back to Filoni. So, we're going to see it. It's whether or not, I thought it was great. This one very much reminded me almost identical to the one. It felt almost identical to the one from Tales from the Jedi.
Yes,
so
I think it was similar verbiage, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't like that similarity because that means that he recorded 2 that were nearly identical. Right? It's like, hey, I recorded 20 tapes, but 2 of these tapes, they're almost identical.
Well, to be fair, I think that was in Tales of the Jedi when he was training Ahsoka with the other clones, so that wasn't a hologram. So this is just a reminder of what he was. Hey, remember that time when I had you get stunned like 100 times by the clone troopers? Let me just remind you here. Blah, blah,
it's just 20 takes of the same thing.
Ahead,
that's what he meant when there's 20 versions.
Yeah, yeah. Because I'm pretty sure it's funny because this one referenced lightsaber forms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the one we see in Rebels is also referencing lightsaber forms.
Form 4, yeah. It's about Form 4.
Yeah, so it's a similar thing where he's just recording 20 variations of the same training.
Lightsaber forms.
This also could be
sweaty for me.
The other part. This could also be the other part of that hologram that he had. So we can go on
because we didn't see the full thing in Rebels. Yeah,
right, and we still didn't see the full thing in Ahsoka. So, but our heroes Huyang and Ahsoka, they come out near Peridea. I just also love the hyperspace look of going to this other galaxy. I think it looks amazing. But they come out in an Imperial minefield, which, just throw logic out the door. I don't know where they had those mines, but it was still a pretty incredible scene with the Purgle just running through this field, unbeknownst to them that it'd be there. And then we get this chase scene of Ahsoka and Huyang in the T6, and it just evoked a lot of Empire vibes with the asteroid field and. Yeah, Brandon, what'd you think of like the action parts of getting to Peridea?
It was cool. Like I didn't know like what to expect because like Thrawn was like, oh, if you see a star whale, like terminate it or whatever. And then I guess Morgan Elsbeth took that as let's just set up a bunch of mines that like mildly annoy the whales.
See, I feel like that was a total Thrawn move.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like setting up mines on a hyperspace access point is like totally something out of the old Timothy Zahn books. Like as soon as they jump out of hyperspace, they will reach the bombs. Their shields won't be up yet, and right,
I think
ambush the New Republic fleet.
I think Thrawn saw that Morgan and Elsbeth was just like, yeah, we're just gonna use the Eye of Sion guns to take out whatever, and then Thrawn was like, you know what, I'll do it myself. Let me just throw up these mines because your guns ain't gonna be enough. So maybe because he's already kind of annoyed with her suggestions as it is.
Yeah, she's pretty annoying. She's like always questioning things, be like, but my lord, isn't this? He's like, no, you're an idiot. Like, I got this. Like Jesus.
It reminds me of that one officer in Rebels that would always just screw up. I forget his name. I forget his name, but he reminds me of like an Imperial officer that would just go for glory and then end up screwing the whole mission or objective, whatever. So we get all this happening, and we cut back down to Ezra and Sabine, and it's I understand why they're not having Sabine reveal all this information to Ezra, because logically it'd be like, hey, let me catch you up. But she's also, I guess, she doesn't want to admit or confront the fact that she thinks Ahsoka is dead, and there's all these other things that are trauma that she doesn't want to deal with in the moment, because she says as much to Thrawn or to, I think, Baylan in the previous episode. He said he said something. I thought this be a time for reflection, and she's like, I try not to do that. And so there's still a lot of that still going on with her, even with Ezra and trying to get him up to speed. But also at the same time, it's like, we know everything you're going to tell him. So the fact that they did some of it off screen, I'm like, well, that makes sense, because you're just wasting time if you're regurgitating things the audience already knows, that even though Ezra doesn't know, but we know. Anyways, Sean, their banter, their dynamic, how do you think it translates to live action, Ezra and Sabine?
I mean, it's good. I think, I'm still not sold on Natasha Liu's Sabine.
Yeah, Sabine.
Take that back.
Well, who did I say? Who am I thinking? Who's the actress I'm thinking?
No, you're
What's
right.
her name?
Natasha Liu Bordizzo. That was her last name. But,
oh, okay, cool. She's just got three names, and I only knew two of them. All right.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what actress am I thinking? Oh, same one. All right, great, cool. But man, Ezra is so good.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think it's fine. I think ultimately you have to cater a certain amount of dialogue, especially in Star Wars, especially in episodic Star Wars, has to be catered towards the speed of plot. Mm-hmm. There's this whole idea in live action and animated Star Wars that, well, how fast does a ship move through hyperspace? However fast it needs to for the plot to move forward, right? Sure. Whereas like old school Legends and the RPG books and stuff, they always outline, oh, it's 36 hours to get from this place to this place. Even in A New Hope, they're kind of like, yeah, it's a 36-hour trip, or whatever. It's Alderaan. None of that matters in live action or in animated, because it's this whole idea of they get there when they get there. They get there when it's most important for the plot. It's kind of the same thing with, I think, why Sabine was holding back this information from Ezra. Part of it was because she wants to enjoy Ezra's company. It's been, 8 years, 10 years?
8, 9. I think it's 9, around 9. Yeah, somewhere.
9 years, probably. Yeah. However long it's been, she misses her friend, but also because it's not relevant. We can't move the plot forward yet until Ahsoka gets there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And until like the Star Destroyer's preparing to leave, and now they have to race to the Chimera and fight their way up the Night Sister Tower and get in, and whatever Baylan's doing, right? Like, so it's this whole layered thing of that conversation had to be held off in order for the plot to move forward. And I'm fine with that. That's storytelling, right? Like that's ultimately, don't read too much into it. Get over it, right? But I really love this idea of her catching him up on like, yeah, we beat the Empire at Endor, and the Emperor died, and like all this stuff, right? Hera's a general leading a fleet. Zeb's training new recruits for the squadrons. Like, I love that exchange, and I love the offhanded remark of stealing this from your show notes, Frank.
No, they're for everyone, man.
Peek behind the curtain, right? Ezra's like, "Oh, the Emperor died." That's what they say.
Yeah, I mean, what a great, just a great little line there that says so much. Or it can mean as much as you want it to mean, I guess.
Right.
I do think part of me actually thinks, why Sabine might not have revealed all the information is maybe because she's resigned to the fact that they're never getting off this planet. That like her way out is with Thrawn, and it's like, you know what, we're never getting off this planet. Let's have Ezra have a little bit of hope, just for a little bit, instead of just completely deflating this dream of going home. There might be some of that. Brandon, what say you?
What say me about what specifically, Frank?
About just kind of their whole interaction and their dynamic, and maybe Sabine's not divulging all the information at once.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed honestly, I think the actor who plays Ezra is doing an amazing job. So anytime he gets to be that character, as someone who hasn't seen a ton of Rebels, it's very easy for me to see the animated character in his live action performance. So them catching up was a lot of fun. The Emperor comment, I'm I didn't know what to make of that. I'm should I laugh? Should I cringe?
Should I cry?
That's what they say. But if he did return, it would be weird, right?
Should I get into the fetal position? Right, yeah.
Yeah, and then everyone's going to say Palpatine way more often than they ever have in their whole lives. But no, it's
yeah. I love how the original trilogy, they never once call him Palpatine, right?
No,
he's just the Emperor, and slowly, eventually, when we get to this whole Heir to the Empire thing, they're going to be like, I will redeem what happened to Sheev. They're slowly
saying Sheev. Yeah.
Thrawn's my good friend Sheev would have loved to see this.
Right.
My mentor and father figure Sheev would really be proud of me right now.
He was so crusty and old, but he was a sweet man. But no, I don't know where I was.
Sometimes he would fall asleep in our defense council meetings.
I said it's okay to take a nap.
I want to go real quick back to when Thrawn gets the information that Anakin Skywalker is Ahsoka's master, and just it's great subtle acting on Lars Mikkelson's part, because he doesn't oversell it. I think he plays this part perfectly, unless you just know enough of okay, I know what I'm dealing with here, and it's gonna be a little bit more difficult than I'd like, but I can still do this thing. But it's just really, it's of all people, it's going to be Anakin's apprentice, John?
It's also really good subtlety in dialogue writing, right? Because if you've read the newer Thrawn trilogy, you know that Thrawn knows who Anakin is, knows who Darth Vader is, and has interacted with both of them, right? So, he's well aware what Anakin was capable of on all facets of his personality. I think that was really subtle for him to not say ooh, I once worked with Anakin Skywalker during the Clone Wars on Batuu, right? He didn't say that, right? They just left it. Hey, if you read that book, the two of them went gallivanting to go save Padme from a droid factory on Batuu. Let's leave it at that.
He bought me a Ronto wrap.
Yeah, he bought me a Ronto wrap, and we went shopping at Savvy's collective. Savvy's lightsaber shop. Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities. Right?
Oga's Cantina on the weekends on a weekend pass. Brandon, how did you like? Because I love this moment from Thrawn. It's so great. Everything he's employing about his strategic and military mind in this moment. How did you react to how this moment?
Yeah, I saw a lot of people interpret it as he's scared, she was Anakin's apprentice. Oh no.
Yeah, I didn't.
I kind of took it in a way where he was oh, she was Anakin's apprentice. This is gonna be fun. That's the way that I took it.
Yeah, and it's this whole idea, this recurring theme of Thrawn knowing his enemy, right? That's what I think that scene was,
absolutely.
More than anything. Then we have moving us along, the Night Sister, or the Night Mothers rather.
Great mothers.
Led by Claudia
Mothers.
led by Claudia Black, who if you don't know Claudia Black, she's wonderful in Stargate.
Yes. I
think it's Claudia Gray.
David, he ran through Stargate, all of it, like a couple months ago, so I'm familiar.
Yeah. But I hate the little laser ball things. Give me some green Night Sister magic.
Sure.
But the way they shot the scene of Ahsoka like finding Sabine and the Night Mothers finding,
they know trigonometry. It's like, cool.
But like the scene of like both their faces going, "We found her. I found her." Right? Like it's just shot so well. That's so fun. You know.
Yeah, and I think it was really cool that Ahsoka, you know, says, "Hey, there's another way I can get in touch with Sabine or find Sabine," and I don't think she could have done this prior to the World Between Worlds Anakin episode. I don't think she was at this calm or this centered to be able to do that. So I think you're starting to see that episode and that interaction she had pay off again with that training sequence before, and then here now with her being centered, being able to connect to Sabine, because Huyang's like, is your connection even that strong? And so I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know that it is, based on everything we've seen on screen. But lo and behold, you know, it works out, and I think it's still a great moment to me. So it's not like tarnished in any way. But I go, I don't think it is, but the show's telling me it is. So this might reinforce it for you a little bit. Okay.
I think that it's also helped by the fact that Sabine is in this position of living in the here and now and the moment, right?
Ooh, I do.
She's
like
not.
This.
Sabine isn't dwelling on. This goes back to her conversation with Ezra, right? She's not dwelling on, we need to deal with Thrawn. Ahsoka's dead, right? Like she's not dwelling on this. She's in here and now in the moment with Ezra Bridger. This, you know, which I want to talk about Ezra's character development when we get to it, because I think that there's a later scene that really reinforces it. But I mean, Ezra has lived as an ascetic on this planet with these turtle people. What are they called? What are the fucking turtles?
The Noti. The Noti.
The Noti. Yeah. Those naughty turtles. The naughty turtles. Yeah. And when Shin Hati finds the naughty, you know.
Oh boy. Shin Hati.
Here we go.
Finds the naughty. Yeah.
Naughty Shin Hati.
Oh boy.
There's our episode title.
Yeah.
Do we title these episodes? I don't know.
We're all generic. Everyone else is, so, you know.
Yeah, it's this like this development of Ezra, her being with Ezra, like the way the living force works, you know, who knows? That's not how the force works, whatever. But like, this is strengthening her connection, right? I don't think Sabine has ever been closer to the force or more connected to the force, if for no other reason, just because of where she is in her character arc. Right.
Yeah.
Also, sorry if I think my Discord audio is coming through. Sorry if that.
I thought that was mine.
Came through. No, that was me. I apologize.
I didn't hear a damn thing.
I heard a thing. Anyways,
I fixed it.
You're good. You're good. Brandon.
Yes.
Ahsoka, Sabine. You know, did you buy it? Like this is gonna happen? Like,
I bought
Sean
it.
brings up a really good point. I think you bring up a really great point that, you know, she's here and now in the moment, and this is what she has. And so, because reference Kanan all the way back in Rebels, he talks about how she's not open, you know, and so at this point in her arc, you know, maybe she's more open at this point, which I had not considered, and I'm glad you said that, Sean, because that actually really works for me. Brandon.
well, Master Yoda said I should be mindful of the future. No, this is something that Sean makes a good point, because it's been said so many times throughout Star Wars, from different masters to apprentices, Qui-Gon to Obi-Wan, Yoda to Luke. Yeah. And Yoda literally bops him on the nose. You know, it's like, hey, what are you doing? Right now, come on. Mine! Eat my really nasty stew. But
root stew, is it?
Yeah, that sounds gross. Unless it's
I think it's root leaf stew.
Yeah, root leaf stew. That's what it. Yeah.
But anyways, I bought it. I don't know. I bought it.
Yeah. So now we also have Baylan and Shin. They're on top of their howlers, and I did not see this coming. Where Baylan's like, "All right, Shin, you clearly have a different path you need to go down. why don't you go ahead and kill Ezra and Sabine and you go join the Empire? Me, on the other hand, I'm going to go in this direction. Don't worry about it. I'm going to go over here and do the thing that I've been called to do. And I was like, whoa, this is really, really interesting. Brandon, what's going on here? What's Baylan up to? What is Shin thinking at this point? It's kind of wild to me, actually.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. It kind of almost seemed like I was like always like part of the plan. He's like, all right, I've completed your training. You know, now is your time to go be a part of this new empire and blah, blah, blah. How many times have we heard the new empires? Anyway,
your new empire.
Your new empire. What if she said that? That'd be crazy. Yeah, I would really like to know.
Kid, didn't you know?
Yeah,
I'd really like to know.
Shin Hati is Obi-Wan and Satine's.
Satine's.
Yeah,
I like that.
Man.
That's it.
Like,
there it is.
Obi, we have to put her into hiding. What should we call her? Shin Hati. What? Just do it.
Do it.
Do it. I like weird names. Do it.
What was I getting at? I don't know.
Well, you could tell she's Mandalorian because of her pauldrons. She's got those
totally.
They look
Totally.
like Mandalorian. If you match those up to Din Djarin's pauldrons, they're the same pauldron. I don't know what this voice is.
Satine had blonde, bleachy hair. So does shit. Like,
Yeah.
it's the same hair.
Shin fights in the fighting form 4.5, which is the same one we see Obi-Wan use in Attack of the Clones.
They have the same
Jango
haircut.
Fett.
Yeah.
No, but
But this dynamic, yeah.
I think I can see her maybe turning to the light now. We get a glimpse of that with Ahsoka, like just letting her go, like saying like, "Hey, drop your weapon, come join us," and she runs away, and she's like, "All right, let her go."
That was also a good character development. We're again jumping ahead a little bit, but that was a good character moment for Ahsoka because it's like this whole idea of kind of before I think if Ahsoka had given someone a chance and they said no, she'd be like, "All right, Sabine,
Right.
shoot her," like.
right. Well, this actually plays into the Baylan Ahsoka fight here, Sean. Talking about she squares up with Baylan, and this time Baylan's the aggressor because he's got things to do, much in the same way Ahsoka had things to do in terms of preventing the map, completing blah blah blah. Its calculations and stuff on CTOS. And then she ends up saying, Baylan's like, "You can't defeat me," and she goes, "Well, I guess I don't need to." And here comes Huyang. He's still flying up above, trying to get rid of the fighters. But by the way,
I love those fighters.
Those fighters are very cool.
I love them.
I was going to say, when Ahsoka first gets onto the planet, look, I'm glad that they're doing more like athletic Jedi stuff. And look, it doesn't look the best in CGI, but I appreciate the fact that they're doing this stuff because you really don't ever see this type of stuff unless it's animation where they're jumping, 10 stories
or
on
animation, or for some reason episodes 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like that they're doing that stuff, even though it looks a little, and they know it too because they only barely show you that stuff, just
which
a
is
little
fine.
bit, which is great. I like the fact that like she's a Jedi, she has superhuman type of abilities at times, right? So, anyways, but I do like the fact that she's not there to kill Baylan. I mean, she also doesn't have time to duel to the death with this guy at the time, and the fact though that she recognizes that is like, I have people to save, which I think is a departure from, on CTOS where she's like, I have people to mow down, as you were kind of talking about there, Sean. So, what did you think about this interaction between Baylan and Ahsoka?
It's great. Baylan, I don't know what is going on with Baylan. I don't know who he is. I can't wait for the Baylan spinoff novel.
There's got to be one, yeah.
There's gonna be one, absolutely. There's no way it's not already written, and they're gonna announce it like a week after the final episode, and I'm stoked for it.
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed. Disappointed, not the right word. I'm heartbroken. We're not going to get more Baylan after this, right?
Yeah.
Because he is everything I want out of I'm not even going to say a villain out of an anti-hero. Or remains to be seen what he truly is. Part of me thinks whatever he's looking for is not something with ill intent, right? It's something where he legitimately is looking for something he thinks is of a greater purpose, right?
Yeah.
I think he's on this path to find a greater purpose. I hope, right? Or he's looking for Abeloth, one of the two. I don't know.
Someone in our Discord brought up reference that, but we'll get to there.
Did they reference that in the questions today?
Someone brought it up that, and we'll get to that in the Q&A section. So I'm glad you brought that up because we'll get into that. Brandon, Baylan Ahsoka, did this go the way you thought it'd go?
No, I like how she kind of had like a Batman moment where she's like, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you either. And then the ships come in.
It was really weird. It's really weird when she says, you know the difference between you and me? I'm not wearing hockey pants.
Are we dead? Can we trust him? I was surprised, like when it was revealed that she had like jumped out of the ship in front of Baylan. I thought maybe she was going to go to like Ezra and Sabine, and maybe we see some cool stuff where like Sabine's got Ezra's saber and Ahsoka like tosses Ezra like one of her lightsabers, and they like all have lightsabers and they're all just like doing Jedi stuff together.
Oh my gosh.
But that was just me being a nerd. But I like what we got instead.
Yeah. So we also have this chase scene, which I mean, I love chase scenes altogether, starting with Indiana Jones and Mummy, like all those types of movies, right? And Mandalorian had great chase scenes and stuff like that. And we have another one here. And this is where I just really was like, man, I love these little guys, the Noti. I'm like, man, they're hilarious. And at one point, they're all going down this valley, whatever, and the bandits are, wreaking their havoc and whatnot, or trying to at least. And then you got this one Noti who's just like throwing pots and pans at one of the Noti, and I was like, now this is pod race. Because it just reminded me. I like
that no matter what universe we're in, that someone's going to invent a slingshot, And
it wasn't like a weird electro slingshot.
No,
what's with Filoni and slingshots?
Hey, I mean,
it was like
it's a primitive form of combat. I don't know,
Yeah, but Ezra had
David
a
Goliath. I mean, hey. So we get this scene, and then Ezra, in true Ezra fashion, has to go back for a downed Noti. They circle him up, and that kind of sets the stage for the final confrontation, if you will, of the episode at least. And we get this scene here, which I didn't realize in the moment there would be some debate over this, but that was just me being dumb because the internet's going to internet. And it's when Sabine is like, here, take your lightsaber. And Ezra's like, no, it's yours. She's like, no, take it seriously. And he's like, that's okay. The Force is my ally. That's all I need.
Well, he says,
I gave it to you.
I gave it to you. It's yours.
And the show has actually had a scene to define this between Huyang and Sabine. And I think in the second episode, they made a point to be like, hey, this is your lightsaber. You've made your own modifications to it, haven't you, Sabine? Yeah, okay. Well, and he gave it to you. Here you go. This is your lightsaber. That's coming from Huyang, the master of all lightsabers. Like, if there's any guy, I'm going to be like, whose lightsaber belongs to who? I'm going to listen to Huyang.
He's like the Ollivander of lightsabers. The lightsaber chooses the Jedi, Miss Wren.
Yes. So I didn't think too much of it in the time when I go, oh yeah, they've made it a point to be like, the show has made it a point to be like, yeah, this is Sabine's lightsaber. So, and also like Ezra, I'm sure he's just been force wielding, air and stuff this whole time he's been there. And so I'm like, yeah, he's going to, do what he's going to do. And maybe he feels like Sabine, should wield it because she's been he says too, you've been practicing, blah blah blah. So I don't know, Sean, what did you think of that interaction? And
I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved it because look, I said this. I'm gonna shout out to my buddy Zach Koss who made a good point. Why is the best live action Last Airbender we've ever seen in Star Wars, right? But also like. the way I saw it, and I've got this is a whole diatribe where we'll go into, in 2 episodes when we do our post Ahsoka wrap up, right? Because I got a whole fucking rant about this. Chirrut Imwe walked so that Ezra can run, right? Because everything Ezra's doing, I think, is what the fan base wanted to see out of Chirrut. This Force monk wielding a staff, hand-to-hand combat, right? I fucking loved this, man. Give Ezra that multi-class level in monk. Give him the step of the wind, give him the flurry of blows, all of it. The way he's just punching and like gut punching people and force pushing them. If nothing else, we don't give Ezra a lightsaber because we want to see another cool way of fighting with the Force, right?
Yeah.
Like, again, this goes to this whole idea of sometimes the plot doesn't have to make perfect sense if it serves the story, and it's not any dumb, like they were never at risk of losing to Shin. They're still 2-on-1. Ezra literally stops the lightsaber with his freaking hand. Like, he doesn't need a lightsaber. He doesn't need one until all the storm.
If he had a lightsaber at that moment, I think Shin's dead. And I don't think story-wise.
So there's a whole other conversation to be said about, is Ezra, and I know there's a question about this, but it inevitably has to come up right now. Is Ezra out of practice with the lightsaber, or when he picks up the lightsaber, is it all going to come back to him, right? I think to an extent, Ezra's not going to be out of practice, but Ezra also was never the most skilled lightsaber combatant, right?
But compared to Shin?
Compared to Shin, I don't know, because Shin's probably had 20 years of training under Baylan, right?
I mean, she defeated Sabine once, who's not even.
But it's really also a matter of.
And then the second time, it was like she had a tough time there.
It's also a matter of like every lightsaber fight is going to be close, right?
Sure.
Unless the point of the story is to show how unskilled a fighter is, every lightsaber fight is going to be close, because that's what we as fans want to see, right? Yeah, they're going to give someone some sort of edge, but it's going to be close because that's what we want to see as fans.
Fair point.
So I still have more faith in Shin because she's been training for 20 years, under Baylan or 15 years, what have you.
Yeah.
Right. Ezra's been living a mostly nomadic, peaceful life. Is he out of practice? I don't know, probably, but that doesn't mean, the Force is his ally. Whether he's fighting hand to hand or with a lightsaber, he's going to have the same amount of skill, right? Like, that's how the Force works.
And it's not like he's probably had some skirmishes with the bandits here and there over the years. So it's not like he's just been sitting in the corner and collecting dust in terms of his fighting skills. So I also think that, and this is just me, I just simply think Ezra is probably stronger in the Force than Shin. That's just kind of like how I read the situation, especially with him holding back the saber with the Force and how he's able to command it and use it to his advantage fighting the bandits. And I think because that's probably the only quote unquote weapon he had, even though I don't want to call the Force a weapon, but like that's all he had to defend himself in the note, right? So that was his defense mechanism, was the Force, and that's what he had to learn to use to the maximum because he didn't have a lightsaber. So Brandon, what do you think about this whole scene?
Well, first of all, I totally buy into Sabine versus Shin in a lightsaber fight being close, because Sabine is a Mandalorian who's been trained like pretty extensively, more than anyone, to like wield a lightsaber. And at times where she's like kind of outmatched because Shin has the Force and she doesn't, she makes up for it with wrist rockets and a flamethrower, and it's super badass to see. Or she's literally using her Beskar armor to like block the lightsaber when she's like caught off guard. Like, I mean, which also kind of showcases like how the Mandalorians develop their technology to fight Jedi. It works out pretty well.
Well, even more so, it shows how the show The Mandalorian has developed this lore around the Beskar, right? Because because we wouldn't have seen that in episode 2, right? Mace Windu just cuts right through. You
got the neck. You got all
no
neck.
armor on the neck.
I understand that, right? But if we had developed that then, I think we would have seen him throw a block or two before getting beheaded, right?
Gotcha.
You're absolutely right, Brandon.
Oh, thank you. But and also, yeah, I love with Ezra how he says the Force is my ally. It's all I need. That to me, that shows a huge level of maturity. Like he's taken lessons we've heard from like Yoda and like Kanan and Obi-Wan and so many other great Jedi. Like he's taken all these lessons to heart and he's truly like learned them. And I think that makes him like a really like true Jedi in the sense that they are supposed to be. So it's going to be interesting to see how Kylo Ren kills him one day. But you know, it's.
You think he's going home? Is what you're saying? Okay,
we'll get there.
I love the shot of. I love the shot of Ezra pulling Sabine back and her whipping the flamethrower.
Oh, that was great.
As she goes back, I want to see more of them working in tandem. Like in next episode, I want to see more of that tandem fighting between the two of them or the three of them with Ahsoka.
That'd be very cool. I think that was a great moment, and it looked like they only had one shot to do it because I caught it on the first watch and I caught it on my rewatch. Like he goes to pick her up and grab her by the arm, but she's already being lifted by the wires that they've already airbrushed out of the scene, and it's one of those. I actually like it a lot because it reminds me of the stormtrooper hitting his head in A New Hope on the door. It's like one of those things, and I'm glad that they just left that in there because I'm sure they saw that. They're like, yeah, whatever, you know, it's good enough. You know, it's Star Wars, you know. So just one little thing I noticed. Sean, I can't remember if you said this like 2 weeks ago or whatever, but the Night Troopers. What was your theory on the Night? What was your theory on the Night Troopers?
I didn't have a weird theory on the Night Troopers. I was never on the zombie Night Trooper train. Enoch, however, could be because he's very much got that Roman death mask kind of vibe going.
Yes.
He looks like, I know I said this to all of our Warhammer 40,000 fans out there. He looks like the sanguinary guard from the Blood Angels in Warhammer 40K. Okay. And it's a great look. I think these Night Troopers are the coolest stormtroopers. You know, this whole idea of, hey, what's your favorite stormtrooper, right? Oh, it's the Death Troopers. I love Shore Troopers. Scout Troopers are always going to be my favorite. The Night Troopers, they beat out anything you possibly could throw at Star Wars.
Cool, yeah, they look very cool. Enoch too. You're right. Yeah.
Enoch looks great, but like all of them with the like gold marbling through the armor and the bandage
red
wraps
ribbon,
closing it up. It's also good. I love them showing up. I like the fight with the stormtroopers. I'm shocked at how visceral these fights felt, right? Because it always very much felt like there was parity. No one had the upper hand, right? Like our heroes were winning, but it was like, you know, it was close and it was tough, right? Until Ahsoka shows up and it's just like, hey, I'm here and I got a wolf and a lightsaber and, you know.
Yeah. No, you're right, actually, because I was like, man, they are really in a jam right here. I don't know what they're going to do. Right. And then Shin's like, kill him. I was like, oh, yeah, what? I was like, yeah, they are totally dead to rights. And then Ezra,
he's like, whoa. Maybe don't?
Yeah.
And it's classic
Rebels
Ezra.
Let's talk about this. Yeah.
It's a classic Rebels Ezra, and I love seeing it. I know some people are like, what's going on here? But I mean, I just gotta laugh.
I do the same thing, man.
The troopers should have just opened fire and then end of series. You know,
yeah, but that's not Star Wars, right?
Exactly. You know,
yeah. This Ezra is the perfect. He's not playing the Ezra Bridger we know from Rebels. He is the perfect, like, aged up adult Ezra
continuation
that's lived on his own. You know, that's lived the Obi-Wan Kenobi life. You know, but he still is.
Great job.
He is so good. He is so good. And I'll tell you what, he has done everything he can on Twitter to not talk about this show.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've seen his tweets. Yeah, I've seen his tweets. And so yeah, we have that really great comedic moment from Ezra, and then Ahsoka shows up, and also Thrawn, you know, is like looking down at his war table, if you will, and is like, oh, okay,
we are missing a mercenary.
Yeah, and they're like, and I like that it's just like, wait, did they take out Baylan? Like, that's like the thought of like, okay, well, guess we can retreat now, but and Morgan Elsbeth's like, again, reminds me of these, like a former Imperial officer he once had. And he's like, we have them. Let's take them out. And he's like, listen up. You don't see the big picture the way I do. And he's like, time is on our side.
Yeah.
Time is on our side. It's not on theirs. We're good to go. Okay. And he said this last episode. He's like, I could care less if they're dead or alive by the time we leave. Because my only priority is to get off this forsaken planet,
and for them to not get off the planet,
and for them to not yet, whether they're dead or alive,
whether they're dead or alive, they can't. Their hyperdrive is not strong enough to get them back.
Right.
In a reasonable
even
time.
if they knew the coordinates, which they don't.
Right.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Which they
are pretty screwed.
I love Thrawn's line of, these are acceptable losses for our first, it's this calculated, cool, and turning a defeat into a victory for Thrawn, right? This whole idea that
gaslighted himself.
Yeah, you might think we're losing. It's a very Thrawn line, right? You might think we're losing, but we're actually winning. Don't worry, trust me, bro.
We're doing tremendous winning. We win all the time. No one wins better than us.
It's gonna be great. We're gonna win the war. We're gonna beat Ahsoka Tano. I'll tell you what. I've got a lot of friends. Back in the galaxy. There's some of the Rhodians. They're the best people. I love all of them. It's great.
I got the bluest skin, the bluest skin anyone's ever seen. No one's got skin bluer than me. That I can tell you. Okay.
Hashtag blue man bad.
So this episode actually kind of ends on like somewhat of a happy note, literally musically. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, cool. Because usually penultimate episode, you kind of leave your heroes in dire straits with like, what's going to happen to them, blah, blah, blah. I mean, but then we also know that like they'll be fine because there's a whole 30, 40 minutes, whatever for this episode. That aside, I want to ask you about this because Ezra's like, hey, I think I'm going home after all. And last episode, he's like, I can't wait to go home. And I'm just sitting here, I'm like, stop saying that. Because if you say that, it's not going to happen. And I could be wrong, but I just feel like they're setting you up to be like, yeah, he's going home. Yeah, I can't wait. And then they're going to pull the rug underneath from you. And then I don't know if they're going to kill him. That'd be pretty ballsy, but
I think he's going to go after Baylan.
I do think he will confront Baylan, and that's when I do think Sabine's gonna be like, yo, take the saber. You need it against this guy. And he's gonna be like, yeah, you're right. And then everyone's gonna go bonkers because you're gonna see Ahsoka and Sabine and Ezra, and then Shin's gonna show up at the last minute before Baylan gets sliced, and then it's like 3-on-2, and it's like, oh my God, and it's just... So yeah, that's me.
Speculating for the last episode, right? One of those core three have to go after Baylan.
Yeah.
Right. Because if Baylan just leaves and no one follows him, then whatever's going on in his plot really doesn't matter. Right. It could be something building towards one of the future series, but the fact of the matter is he is the sort of core on the ground antagonist for the series. Someone's got to confront him. It makes the most sense for it to be Ahsoka. So like there's a couple questions, right? Do they all go after him? Can Ahsoka does the first half of the episode dealing with Thrawn, and then Thrawn escapes, and then our three heroes have to go deal with Baylan, and Shin is still there, right? Is that the climax? Do some of them get off and Ahsoka goes off, or Ahsoka and Ezra go off, right? We don't know, right?
Yeah.
Here's a crazy thought. Could our heroes use the world between worlds to get back to their galaxy? Now that Ahsoka's the Ahsoka the White. Because we can't time travel.
No.
What we know is from Filoni, I don't remember exactly what this was, but I've heard it said.
It was a Rebels Recon episode, yeah. That
he said you have to enter the same door you have to exit the same door you entered.
Yeah.
In the world between worlds.
I don't know.
I don't know what that means, right? Is that a time thing? Is that a space thing, right? Can Ahsoka the White now use that? Is there something that, right? Who knows, right? I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's part of me thinks like, first of all, Ahsoka has no intention of, I think, confronting or taking down Baylan. That's not like on her mind. I think their priority now is to get off this planet, and the only way to do that is probably to try and hitch some sort of ride on Thrawn ship or whatever. They're not concerned about defeating Baylan and Shin. That's how I view their priorities right now, and I think they're gonna get so close, and then it's like, nope, you just missed your ride. But then, oh wait a minute, Baylan's doing something over here. Mystical is all hell. Whatever it's going to be, I don't know.
And whatever they're doing is going to cause the school trip from Skeleton Crew to go off course.
I mean, that could,
and that's how they get off planet.
In Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
I could buy that, honestly, because I think, and do we know when Skeleton Crew is taking place timeline wise?
I think this timeline, but it could be High Republic. Who knows, right?
Yeah, because part of me is also like, I don't think Dave wants these characters to enter a timeline in which he had no say in, and where they're
don't worry, Dave's
dead.
Writing that episode.
No. I'm talking about like in the sequel trilogy and like all the Ben Solo stuff. Like, I don't think he's gonna have Jason, in that school. I don't think he's gonna have Grogu over there.
No.
So I think this is a way, if they're here on this planet long enough, this is like the way to be like, hey, this is why they were in the sequel trilogy. Just like the way Ezra wasn't involved in the original trilogy and all those events, right? It's a way to explain stuff away in a Star Wars-y way, whether or not you want to buy into that fully. It doesn't make logical sense. Who cares? Does it make Star Wars sense? Yeah, it could happen. I think this is like a way for that to happen. Will that happen? I don't know, but I could see it being entertained and as the possibility. Brandon, what are you thinking here in terms of finale and maybe further on, if you got any ideas on that?
I think we're gonna see Thrawn leave the planet relatively, or the whole galaxy relatively quickly, and they're gonna be stranded there, and then they're gonna say, "Oh, well, now we have no choice. Let's just go see what Baylan's up to," and then I wouldn't be surprised if it was like they use the world between worlds or something mystical, or like it is tough because like you think like Ezra's cheeky with the whales, but if he could summon them, he would have left a long time ago. So
the whale whisperer, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, how would he have got up to orbit though? I mean, yeah.
The whales,
he can jump very high.
Whales. I mean, the whales also do come into atmosphere, right? Like
that's true. That's true.
So they could be up on that big rock pillar.
The whales
fly by.
The whales that are a fairy tale, even though the entire New Republic fleet saw them all jump into hyperspace.
Right. Actually, I wanted to say that about what Ziono said. Like everything he listed is like a real thing. They
like
know
evidence.
those things.
Yeah. There was an Inquisitor.
But that's Star Wars for you, right? It's been 20 years and everyone thinks the Jedi are fake, even though there were a bunch of people that were alive during the Clone Wars, right?
But Brandon,
Brandon, what I want to know is, and what Sebastian E wants to know, do you think Ezra makes it out of this finale? Right?
I hope so.
Because Sebastian and me and Frank also referenced this. Ezra keeps mentioning that he wants to reunite with Zeb and Hera. He doesn't know about Jason, right?
Yeah.
He's got to learn. Imagine that moment where he sees Jason with the shoulder pad and he's like, oh,
you
buddy.
Stole that? You son of a... He goes, wait, that's
you
my kid.
grave-robbing punk!
That's my kid. Ezra. Oh, my bad.
Yeah. Right. I mean, do you want to see more of Ezra in future seasons in the movie, or do you think this is the end of him?
I would like to see more Ezra for sure. I think it'd be a shame if he's like the only time we ever see him live action is like 3 episodes of the Ahsoka show and then he dies.
Ballsy. Ballsy
would be horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope we see more.
Yeah, moving further into the Q&A as we get into this portion now before we wrap up here.
Oh, you don't want me to smoothly transition into it?
No, I mean, you did a great job, but I just want to make sure,
Sean, we're too smooth Sullivan.
Sorry.
Damn it.
That's why they call me Silky Sully.
That's why? Okay. E87.
Oh, there's other reasons.
E87 Daniel asks, how bad do you think Ezra will do if he gets his lightsaber back, or will it be like riding the bike? We kind of talked about this earlier.
Riding the bike, baby.
Yeah. I think
it was more about showing an interesting character development and fight scene than I don't think it matters.
And I also think they wanted to save that moment for the last episode to be like, oh snap, like give it a bigger moment, because right there in that kind of like skirmish was like, oh yeah, that'd been cool. But I think the first time he uses the lightsabers against like possibly Baylan or even one-on-one with Shin, that could be a thing too. But I think that'd be a hype moment where you'd be like, oh, so
yeah. Well, if not, we're gonna get hashtag ignite the green trending again.
Oh my gosh. E8 Nama, he asked, for what purpose do you think Ezra gave Sabine his lightsaber to begin with? Because he certainly didn't know Ahsoka was going to take Sabine on.
Was that not was that not shown in Rebels?
It was. I don't remember the context. I think it was just like
he hands the lightsaber to Chopper, but I don't. He doesn't go, hey, later on, give this to Sabine.
At that point, does he know he's going to like sacrifice himself?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he's just like, all right, like I'm gonna probably die.
Brandon,
I see Sabine's potential.
Back to your answer to the other question. If you want to see more Ezra, you could just watch Rebels. The rest of us don't have that.
Yeah, it's true.
Live action show.
Okay, we got two more questions, and one from I missed last week. So this is from Thomas H.H. from last week that I missed, and he asks, now that we're getting Ahsoka the White, do you think she's getting the staff that we know from the Rebels epilogue in the Other Galaxy, and what will she be doing with it?
Wizard stuff.
I don't know. I don't know how to take that scene in the epilogue, right? Because when does it take place? It's after this show, I guess. What's the point of the staff other than symbolism with the Gandalf the White stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know. It could be what Baylan's after.
The staff?
Legitimately, right? Like, because she's got to get it from somewhere. Yeah. She doesn't just suddenly decide, I'm going to start carrying a staff, right? So that's why I think that could be what Baylan's after.
Maybe you could open the world between worlds with one little
ding. Yeah,
it could be. That'd right.
Be wild. If it's like a key to a port. Yeah. Wow. Okay, last question, and this goes into what I alluded to earlier in the episode, but from Erdan, he goes, I want to address some fans out there. He's calling you out, Sean. No, he's not, but sort of.
I have no attachment to Aboleth.
Right? Well, Aboleth for Mortis is not what is calling Baylan, he says. There are some theories out there that are saying that Aboleth is the mysterious power calling to Baylan, but not true, he says, in his opinion. Bringing Aboleth back into canon through this show would just be mere fan service for the Legends fans, and Star Wars fans who are beginners would be confused as hell as to who she is. Also, how is she going to fit in with the rest of the story if they are setting up Thrawn as the big bad of the Mandoverse? Plus, people thought Marok was Starkiller, but look how that turned out. In conclusion, he says, people have high expectations for Legends characters and or media to come back into canon. Aboleth is not going to appear in canon, at least not in Ahsoka. I also apologizes for it being a little long of a statement. That's okay, Erdan. I agree with his assessment, his opinion.
Hold on. I'm going to tackle this point by point out of order.
Do it.
We still have no proof that Merrick isn't Starkiller.
Okay. Factually, that's true, but conventional wisdom would lead you to believe that
he is. Yeah, I agree. All the evidence is there. Galen Merrick and Merrick are the same character, right?
Duh. Yeah.
I disagree about leaving beginners in the dark because it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's lots of things in these Star Wars shows that are like, what the fuck does that mean? I don't know. Who cares? It's cool. It's weird sci-fi magic shit, right? The first time we saw the mother, the daughter, the brother, and the sister.
Yeah.
Daughter, brother, and father. Excuse me.
Yeah. Did you say yeah? Okay.
The daughter, the son, and the father. That's what
they're all sister and brother, and right. Father and son, and
the first time we saw them, we didn't know what the fuck they were. The Aboleth stuff could be the same. I don't think we have enough time to deal with Aboleth in this. Now, it could be a hint. It could be a thematic relevance thing. We still have to remember the father, the son, and the daughter are on that Sabine painting for a reason.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Or there's the or not. Oh, this not the Sabine. Or are they on the mural, or are they on the? They were on a rock on whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that Filoni's used them for a reason, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And we have recurring things. They were in Andor, on the rock carving.
Oh yeah.
Right
in Andor,
like. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, in what's his name's antiquity
shop. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So like we keep getting references to them. We keep getting the implication of them. Ahsoka is tied to them. Ahsoka most likely is the daughter. There is there's some arguments to be made that hey, maybe Anakin's going to become the son, and Baylan could become the father, right? Like there's all this stuff, or Anakin could become the father, right? There's all this stuff. There's all this heavy thematic implication. We have the implication of Hectate, the Greek fates, with the Night Mothers or the Great Mothers.
Mm-hmm.
They're all named after the deities of Hectate.
Right.
We have the theme of the Maiden, the Mother, and the Crone through Ahsoka and Sabine and Hera, and to an extent Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra, even though Ezra's male, but they're still there. We have all these ideas of the Greek fates of the Maiden, the Mother, and the Crone, and you have the Norse wolves in the naming conventions. There is a mythological undertone here, right, that I think this last episode is going to dive into, in the same way that the final episodes of the last two seasons of
Mando
of Rebels do.
Rebels. Oh,
right?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I don't think it's out of the question that Aboleth or some other form of greater power like the Bendu,
mm-hmm.
Doesn't exist out here. The other thing to remember, Aboleth was the mother in the father, son, daughter relationship. Right. So and that's why I think that connection is important. Do I think that's what's going to happen? No, I fucking don't. Right. Aboleth's dumb. I don't want that shit. It's named after a D&D monster. Like, fuck you. That's why I say Aboleth and not Abeloth, which is what it is in.
I was like, I wasn't sure how to say it, and then when you said it that way, I was like, I guess I'll say it that way.
Aboleth is a three-eyed D&D monster that is a Lovecraftian horror that communicates through the Force, basically, right?
Okay.
It's very similar in thematic relevance, so that's why I can't. Yeah, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I don't think we're going to get the Abeloth we know from Legends. I think, in fact, they might not even call it Abeloth, but I could see it being some sort of similar entity. And again, because Abeloth is the mother of the father, daughter, son triad, that's why the Night Sisters and the Great Mothers reside here.
Yeah.
Abeloth's home. I think it's all connected. I think it is all tied together. There is... Again, I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but if it happens, I think the connective tissue is there. I mean, I've been saying this on the show for weeks, You have,
and it's about time we all listen. It's about time. It's high time that we all just... I will say the one thing that he does say here, and I do agree with this, that people have expectations to bring in Legends characters and things of that nature. I mean, he's completely right about the Marak thing. Like, we can joke about it's Star Killer, or it's whoever else you want to name, you want to throw. It's Kanan. It was, people are saying it was Ezra. I'm like, you people are freaking bonkers. Well, so there's a lot of nonsense, but sometimes there's also it could be could it have very well been Star Killer? Absolutely. It's some variation of it. We talked about it on the show a few weeks ago when this was a hot topic. It could be someone like a Star Killer of sorts, but it would have been weird. But it wouldn't have done, if you're trying to do that, pay homage and justice to a Legends character, I don't think you'd do them like that. That's just my opinion.
No,
but
I'm gonna jump back on my soapbox here again. I want to talk about the fact that I think the good eggs in the Star Wars fandom have tainted themselves. I think, well, I'm not, please understand, if anyone is a fan of this person I'm going to quote here, or this person watches the episode. The idea of, a couple weeks ago, there was a discussion about this term Dark Jedi.
Okay.
Which set me off because the term Dark Jedi dates back to 1991 and the original Thrawn trilogy. The implication was not that they are Jedi Knights, it's that they were once Jedi Knights and have gone dark. And everyone goes, oh, well, you can't have a Dark Jedi because they're equating it to this idea of Gray Jedi. It's not the same, right? People are equating Gray Jedi like, oh, no, they're Jedi. They just are conflicted. No, the term Dark Jedi is referring to what it originally meant in the Thrawn trilogy. It's not saying they're still Jedi. It's saying they were once Jedi but have fallen. And everyone's like, oh, you should use the term fallen Jedi. I'm like, I don't know. Who cares? Stop gatekeeping people for using the term they're familiar with, right? It doesn't fucking matter. Right? It's all the same. No one's implying that, oh, he's still a Jedi. I don't know. Baylan is kind of still, he was a Jedi. Now he's dark. Dark Jedi, right? Great. Wonderful.
Just real quick, the captions do reference him as false Jedi, and even Ziono in the
false Jedi,
and they say false Jedi. So it's the same.
Right.
I think it is the same.
Right.
False. Dark,
I think it's the same.
Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of this same idea of, and the reason I'm getting this, I think that came from back during the sequel trilogy coming out. Everyone's like, oh, do you think this person's going to be a great Jedi? No. And everyone pushed back and said, that's dumb. That's not a term, right? Because of this pushback from the good Star Wars creators, again, people that I love and respect, many of whom I know personally, and again, they're friends of mine, and I have a huge amount of respect for them. This is where I'm going to push back. We're allowed to speculate responsibly. People forget the speculate responsibly part of it, and they treat it as just because people are speculating. And this is where I'm saying I think the fandom gets the wrong ideas with these discussions when these bigger, more wise content creators say, hey, there's no gray Jedi, speculate responsibly, all this stuff, right? You're allowed to critique Star Wars. You're allowed to have opinions. You're allowed to speculate. You're allowed to use outdated terms. Just because we're speculating that it's Merrick or that Aboleth is going to show up or that the Night Troopers are dead doesn't mean we're going to be disappointed when it doesn't happen. It just means we're having fun speculating about Star Wars, right? Wouldn't it be cool if they harken back to this old weird god from Star Wars Legends called Aboleth that's weird, and they're not going to use it in the way they did in Legends, so it really doesn't fucking matter, right? Like because of that, if Aboleth shows up, they will treat it like it's the first time Aboleth has ever shown up, right? They don't need to treat it like, oh, Aboleth, you know that guy from Legends? No, it'll just be, hey, it's Aboleth. It's this weird, they might not even anyways, that's my weird soapbox where I'm sure you guys can read into that a little more than I am. But ultimately, my point is, I've noticed this on Star Wars Twitter where the people that I consider the good parts of the Star Wars fandom are the fans in that fandom, not the content creators necessarily. But there's this pushback where like, oh, well, you can't use that term because it's wrong. Well, it's not wrong. It's just an older term. Yeah. And if that's the term, or oh, you can't speculate because I hope you don't get disappointed. Well, quit acting like you're better than people because they're speculating and having fun. That's the whole. That's what I love about this fucking
franchise. Last week, I think I was theorizing about the Night Troopers and do they have like Night Sister magic in them? I'm like, oh, maybe blah blah blah. And then you watch this episode and they're like, oh, they seem pretty normal. They just have the red ribbons and stuff, but you don't see me up here being like, they were blah blah blah, I was blah blah blah. it turned out to not be that okay.
Yeah, great.
I move on. And that's what it is.
Don't worry, fun. The zombies are in the caskets that they're bringing up from the catacombs. Don't worry.
I'd be pretty surprised if they weren't. Honestly, yeah. I would have more. I would have more to say, but not in a way that's like. I'd be like, didn't see that coming. What's that about? I would have way more questions than I would have.
Yeah, I think we're still getting zombies. I think they're just in the whatever they're bringing up to the ship from the catacombs.
Brandon,
what do you think?
I thought the stormtroopers were zombies too. So.
Yeah. Yes. And Brandon is so upset he's declined to say a word that they're not. Well, that's gonna do it.
Emotional damage.
That's gonna do it for us here at Scoundrels Inc., another Star Wars podcast. Please subscribe to the channel; it would really help us out a lot. Click like on this button if you're still here watching and listening. Leave us a comment. You'll subscribe to the podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, what have you. Leave us a review even. We could use more of those. That'd help us out a ton. But this episode's been fun to talk about. It's been great to talk about it with you, Sean and Brandon. And we'll see you all next week when we cover the season finale of Ahsoka. What do you think the title's going to be? Bye-bye.
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 Scoundrel. I like the sound of that.